Hey, I'm Randy and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we talk about high-value hi-fi, home theater, and headphone products. And today, it's another tuberific day. It's not tube bad. We're talking about the Cayin. This one right here. LA34. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about this kind of affordable tube amp. Big shout out to today's sponsor, Kamikoto Knives. Thank you, Kamikoto Knives. The Cayin Audio LA34 was sent in by Ada Audio. Really nice guy. He and his family run this business. It's a newer audio company, so they're importing different products. He emailed me and asked me if I was interested in reviewing anything, and I said, listen, you know, this is the Cheap Audio Man, so we're mostly affordable stuff. And he said, well, this is kind of on the cusp. It's $9.99, so $1,000 for one product. Okay, so I have reviewed more expensive products. $9.99, I get it. It's pushing it, but I did compare this to the AIMA T9 as well as the Black Ice Audio FX10. FX10 from Black Ice is a traditional real tube amp. The T9 is a Class D amplifier with a tube buffer. So I just thought, hey, can this $130 Class D amplifier with a tube buffer hang with a $1,000 tube amp? And can the Black Ice Audio FX10 hang with it? Or is the Black Ice Audio FX10 way better than the Cayin LA34? Well, let's find out together. Huge thank you to today's sponsor, Kamikoto Knives. These are some good knives. I like to do a little food prep in the office every now and again. These knives are made from real Japanese steel with a lifetime warranty. That's right, lifetime warranty. They come in this beautiful heavy-duty ash wood box, and they're used by Michelin chefs all over the world. Apparently that's a good chef. This is gonna get real interesting real fast. This thing's ridiculously sharp. Here, hold on. Let's see if I can do it again. Hey. Cardboard. Nothing dulls a knife like cardboard. Kamikoto builds upon 800 years of technology and expertise when it comes to making knives. Each knife is meticulously created and hand inspected before it goes out the door to you. You can get a whole bunch of knives from Kamikoto. I have the 3-piece set. Comes with a utility knife, 5 inches long. The slicing knife, 8.5 inches long. And this beauty, the Nakiri 7-inch vegetable knife. Yay. So go to kamikoto.com/cheapaudioman to get $50 off your purchase. Kamikoto only uses steel that's sourced from Japanese mills. Each blade is crafted using techniques that have been honed and perfected by generations of knifesmiths. It goes through a rigorous 19-step process that takes several years from start to finish to complete. With over 100 years of experience between them, the Kamikoto expert bladesmiths hone and shape raw steel into hardy blades, polishing and sharpening them to excruciating fine detail. Kamikoto uses a single beveled edge, not two bevel, single bevel, which makes them extremely sharp. You can cut through a ribeye like butter. Interestingly enough, you can also cut through butter like butter. To keep them sharp, you can get one of Kamikoto's whetstones, used by many Michelin star chefs. Go to kamikoto.com/cheapaudioman to get $50 off your purchase. So Cayin says this is an entry-level integrated amplifier, and I guess it could be considered entry-level. This could also be considered end-game level, depending upon what your budget is. So the LA34 is available in black or silver. Reading right off the website, it is handcrafted with point-to-point wiring, 2 wideband EL output transformers, and powered by a specifically designed toroidal transformer to prevent magnetic leakage. It comes with 4 EL34 vacuum tubes for 32 watts of AB1 push-pull amplification. 2 12AU7s and 1 12AX7 are provided for the preamp stage and combined to meet both mid and upper range delicacy. delicacy. Easy bias adjustment is accessible on top of the amplifier. The LA34 also comes with high quality Japanese ALPS potentiometer. Perfect for beginners or someone looking to investigate tube amplification at a moderate price. One of Ada Audio's best value products. So the setup I used for the comparison of the T9 and the FX10 from Black Ice Audio was running the Geshelli Labs. First of all, back up, Randy. Weem Mini Pro going into the Geshelli Labs J2. So it went optical out of the Weem Pro into the J2, RCA out of the J2 into the Akatika preamp PT something something. That Akatika has 2 amp outputs that can be run simultaneously. So then I ran one set of RCA into the Cayin LA34 and the other set of RCAs going into the Black Ice FX10, and then I did the same thing with the T9. Then I had each respective amplifier running speaker outputs into the One Little Bear VU3 speaker and amp switcher, and then out finally to the Wharfedale Denton 80th edition. And then I just switched with the One Little Bear VU3, which incidentally is really cool. And if you just want to add a little bit of excitement to your system for not a lot of money, I would totally look at getting one of those because it has dancing lights and stuff like that. Dancing meters, dancing needles, yellow lights. Build quality, spectacular. This thing is really built well. The volume knob feels metal to me. If it's plastic, it's the best darn plastic I've ever seen. The selector switch over here, made out of the same material, very, very satisfying, clicky. The volume knob has the kind of little, it's not a sweep, so it's click, 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 click. I really like that. Had the Boys of Summer going a little bit too loud. The front is kind of a brushed, I have the gray one, some type of brushed metal here. And the sides are higher polish metal, something like that. Big transformers. I don't know what kind of tubes are in here because they're just labeled Cayin tubes. So I don't know exactly what tubes they are or what manufacturer they are. But if you know, drop it down in the comments. Overall, the build quality, of course, torches the AIMA T9. And I think is a bit better than the Black Ice FX10. But remember, the Black Ice is $625. So there's $400 extra going into the Cayin, or it's $400 more expensive. With that said, it's built really well. And I've had stuff in from Bayou Range, a Chinese tube amp. This is built better. This feels like a high-end piece of equipment. Build quality, very, very good. 10 out of 10. Power, man, 32 watts. Most of the time, my biggest complaint about tube amplifiers, it's just not enough power. And usually for me, I hear that in bass control, bass punch, but the LA34 drove everything that I threw at it. And I settled in on the Wharfedale 80th edition. I thought that was the best combo. The Wharfedale 80th edition seems to be a very good combo for tube amplifiers. But even low efficiency speakers are going to be driven just fine. Frankly, when I first started listening to this, I usually put the volume knob at like 9 o'clock, and I was shocked at just how loud it was. So I had to level match the T9. T9 puts out a decent amount of juice. Level matching them wasn't that difficult. And I know the volume knob position doesn't really tell you anything about how much wattage is going out of it. Anyway, I didn't need a big swing on the LA34 to get it loud. So I level matched these by ear, and the Akatika is basically giving the signal to both of them. The Cayin is right here, so we're going to say that's like 10:30. The FX Audio is all the way at 3 o'clock. So there is a huge disparity between the volume settings on both amplifiers to get them to what I consider to be fairly closely level matched. The big takeaway here is I finally feel like I have a tube amp that can drive anything, any speaker that I have personally. Now, it's probably not going to be able to drive 83 dB 2 ohm speakers or whatever, but I would have no issue putting every speaker that I own on this thing, and I'm not worrying about getting them loud because I was easily getting into the mid 80s, and frankly, that's about the level that most of my bookshelf speakers start to fall apart anyway. And I still had plenty of real estate left on the old volume knob. So the power on the LA34 is surprisingly adequate for every speaker I have. When comparing this to the Black Ice Audio FX10, the biggest difference I heard was in the upper mid-range. I always talk about the upper mid-range. I don't know why. I guess I'm just really sensitive to the upper mid-range. The FX10 sounded a little bit fuller, just on the bottom. The bass wasn't as... Things weren't as separated on the FX10. And it was most obvious in the vocals and treble, and then kind of like the lower mid-range. So the FX audio is, I think, fuller. It's slightly fuller and warmer too. So the thing about the Cayin LA34, sorry, all these model numbers get me confused sometimes. I'm getting old. Do you remember when this used to be nothing but pasture land? Now there's a Kroger there, and a Cinemark, and a GNC for your vitamins. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah. So the LA34, I think, is cleaner, really. It's a whole lot cleaner than the T9. The T9 I used to think was this little rock star. And I remember comparing it to the Yamaha AS801. And there was a marginal amount of difference. But man, I was really surprised when I thought the T9 was going to do better. It did not. It sounded like, in comparison, it sounded very veiled throughout the mid-range, and the bass was loosey-goosey. So it wasn't tight. The LA34 is tight, but yet not weak, so there's still punch in there. FX10, a little bit darker, a little bit warmer, not as much going on the top end. So what are my final thoughts? We're getting closer for me to actually envision myself being able to live with a tube amp. The LA34 gets me as close as I've been. And I said that about the FX10. Here's the thing. If the FX10 had more power, then I could easily see myself being like, okay, this can be a daily driver for me. It's just a little bit short. The Cayin LA34, let's just call it the 34. The 34 never felt like it was being pushed. It felt like there was a ton of power reserve on tap. Power reserve. I like it. I'm still not quite, I don't know. I wish it had a little bit more bass heft, but I think like this is a physics thing. I think I'm just trying to push rope uphill with this. I don't think I'm ever going to get the authoritative bass from a tube amp. Maybe I just haven't heard the right one. But they're good. Like the FX10 and the LA34 are two, I guess, of my favorite tube amps that I've heard. If I could only choose one, it would have to be the LA34 simply because it has more power. And it's going to be able to drive just about anything. It comes with one of these cage things that go nice and toasty. You know, it's nice reviewing tube amps in the winter because it's kind of like having a little space heater. Not so nice in the summer, though. I think the finishing is spectacular. I think the build quality is really good. And frankly, it feels like it should cost more than $1,000. If I didn't know how much it costs and someone said, hey, how much does this tube amp cost? First of all, I'd probably shoot it like 10 grand because people tend to overcharge for their products. If someone had told me, hey, this is 5 grand, I'd be like, okay, yeah, 5 grand. At $1,000, this is pretty expensive, but it actually feels on par with its price tag as far as build quality. It sounds great too. I'm still trying to get to know this tube amp thing. I think we're getting over the hurdle here. Vocals, I mean, what can we say about tube amp? Oh, they're holographic. Oh my goodness. There's tons of separation. I heard that. But I hear that on solid state too. I think there's slightly more going on maybe over the Akatika PT102, which is a power amp. I can't say though that this is better than a pair of A1 monoblocks from Emotiva. Oh, by the way, I also had AudioQuest power cables on both of these. So they both had really good power cables. I think it's a win. I think the LA34 is a great piece of equipment and one that I guess kind of bridges the gap between solid state and actual tubes, because even though it's fully tuberific, it actually has the power to drive everything. And it feels like way more than 30 watts. So recommended. I wouldn't say highly recommended, but I mean, if you're into tubes, you got $1,000 to spend, and you know you like the EL34 sound, then yeah, jump in the tube pool. It's nice and warm. Again, I have no idea on what kind of tubes they are, but it sounds great. I'm not disappointed. Really not disappointed. So if you want to support the channel, sign up for Patreon. Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook group. You can use the links in the description. Generally, those are affiliate links, which means if you click and you buy, I get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more. So it's a great way to support the channel. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, Tidal, or Rune. If you sign up for a trial, I get a couple of bucks, even if you quit. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen, maybe through your new Cayin LA34 tube amp, and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.